This is a case study about Ethiopia, the population and the environment topic. So similar to my video about Bangladesh, this is sort of what we're expected to know for our exams. This is a case study which I've kind of done my own research on and not just like what the textbook says or something, so I hope that this is a good enough case study for you to use. I thought there was an interesting thing about agriculture in this one, so I think it's worth it, but I think it's good to know more case studies than less, you know what I mean. But anyway, let's move on. So, in general, it is located in the Horn of Africa and it's landlocked. It has a population of 67 million in 2002 and now it has 135 million, so a very big increase. The life expectancy now is 65 for men and 68 for women. The birth rate is 29, but every year it is declining little by little, and the death rate is 5.8. I've judged it as being stage 2 in the demographic transition model, but I could be wrong. Let me know what you think. The total fertility rate is 3.7. So the varied landscape includes cool highlands, temperate lowlands and hot deserts. 80% live in rural areas. Half of Ethiopians live in absolute poverty, which I don't know if this is very true, because I think that may have been a 2002 statistic from what I had taught in school. So, just putting that out there. So the per capita GDP in 2025 was estimated to be $994. 2002 was estimated to be around 90. The main economy is based on agriculture, where 80% rely on agriculture for their livelihoods. Some economic factors. So Ethiopians resort to coping mechanisms such as selling available assets, selling labor, borrowing money, eating less, or switching to cheaper foods because of poverty and lack of security. Conflicts such as war, where 60% of the national budget was used on war, meaning funding can't be given for improving infrastructure or to improving the death rate. 7 million Ethiopians receive food aid each year, but giving aid was highly political. Ethiopia is a socialist country where it used to receive aid from the USSR before it broke down. Europe and the USA were reluctant to give aid, but when they did, the Ethiopian government didn't distribute it fairly, which sort of just shows the corrupt government in Ethiopia. So some social factors. In 2005, it was reported that Ethiopia will need 112 billion in the next decade to meet the Millennium Development Goals, but less than 0.5 is being used for reproductive health needs in 2005. But in 2015, though, Ethiopia managed to achieve a 71% decline in maternal mortality ratio and major reductions in death under 5, which means that in that regard they did reach the Millennium Development Goals, which is really good. And you can see here this is the birth rate. It's gone down a lot, and here's the mortality rate, which you can see has gone down a lot as well. So there was issues with women's fertility, where in 2005 1 out of 14 women died in childbirth, and the infant mortality rate was 114 out of 1,000, which is extremely high. But in 2025, the infant mortality rate is now 27, which is a significant decline, and this happened due to the Health Extension Program, which expanded access to primary care, vaccines, prenatal services, and furthermore increased nutrition and improved sanitation led to this drastic decline. Some environmental factors. So Ethiopia is subject to famines. Most common reason is droughts, unpredictable rainfall. The 1985 famine, where 1 million people died, was preceded with 3 successive seasons of dry weather. Furthermore, another famine in 2003 affected more than 30 million people, and in 2005 at least 6 million people suffered with permanent food insecurity. Over-farming and deforestation has happened as a result of decades of rapid population growth. Traveling for firewood means there is a reduced time spent farming, which means they burn manure instead for heat than using it to fertilize soils. There have been environmental policies that have been created, but there is a lack of implementation of these by the government. So the agricultural systems in Ethiopia, this is the kind of interesting part, which I think sort of highlights the biggest issue. So there is an unequal trading system that contributes to hunger, where the Ethiopian government purchases crops from farmers at fixed prices, where farmers need to sell at a certain amount of crop. International pressures lead to growing cash crops to repay countries' debts. This reduces land availability for growing subsistence crops. So individuals don't own land. It's assigned according to the size of their family and redistributed every few years. These farms are distributed between people, so each farmer gets less, essentially. Farmers are less likely to invest if it means their farm gets split to someone else, like after several years. Some can't afford inputs like fertilizer, and lack of investment in this realm leads to land degradation. So here's a little, I suppose, specific place that has some statistics you can use. So Walda is, so most of the area is highlands, with 62% of land being under cultivation. It has unreliable rainfall, which is suffering from food shortages and recurrent famine. This area suffers from effects of unfair trade, debt burden, conflict with lack of government support. Walda struggles with isolation and lack of infrastructure. Roads are almost non-existent, no electricity, transport, telephone or postal service. It has a poor climate, as we mentioned, with unreliable rain and frost, which can damage crops. Lack of land, where average amount of land for each house is 1.1 hectare. There's land degradation, over exploitation of fuel and timber led to deforestation, overcrowding leading to possibly grazing 40 sheep in 0.1 hectare, which has led to little vegetation, severe erosion, with loss of 50 to 100 tons of soil per hectare annually. There is poor land management, because there is a need to feed a large number of people in a small amount of land, which is impossible to leave land fallow. Most farmers are unable to afford irrigation and fertilizers. Crop residue are used as fuel and not manure. Some social improvements, specifically with Action Aid, which was working with local organization order to improve agricultural methods, e.g. 12 vegetable nurseries have started, 515 farmers have been trained in production of new vegetables which are easier to grow, 6,000 farmers have received seeds and irrigation systems, improving land quality, 1,000 farmers have been trained in environmental rehabilitation and conservation techniques, intervention started to improve forest cover and soil degradation. There's been income generation where 100 people have been trained in weaving, pottery and carpentry. Some have been provided with eucalyptus seeds to grow trees to sell. Improving infrastructure, easier to access food aid and better flow of products to markets. Construction work created employment for 224,000 person days. So that was it. Thank you for listening. Here is a question which I think you'll be able to do. So yeah, thank you, bye.